Today, we're flying on United's brand new business class, the Polaris 2.0 suites, on the 787-9 for 15 hours and 30 minutes from Singapore to San Francisco. With a sleek-looking new cabin, which includes upgraded larger studio suites for an additional cost between $500 to $700 on top of the ticket price, it seems as if United is really gunning for the title of America's most luxurious airline. But is a spiffy new seat and added touches like Caviar and upgraded amenities enough to take top spot? Or did they simply add a little lipstick to the pig, so to speak? Let's find out all this together, and more importantly, if it's worth the cost on today's flight.
So I'm here at the lounge right now. United does not have their own lounge here in Singapore, but as a Star Alliance partner, you can make use of the Singapore Airlines lounges. Specifically with United Polaris, you could either use the Singapore Airlines Gold Lounge or you could use the SilverKris Lounge. Personally, I would recommend the SilverKris Lounge, as the SilverKris lounges are a step up from the Gold lounges are. And I am at the one that is located in Terminal 2 by the E-gates, which is definitely not as large or as grand as the one that they have in Terminal 3, but it is the one that is closest to our gates. So that is why we are here today. Let me show you guys around, and then afterwards, when we land in San Francisco, I will show you guys the United Polaris Lounge. So make sure you stick around to the end if you do want to see the United Polaris Lounge in San Francisco. But in the meantime, here is the SilverKris Lounge here in Singapore Terminal 2.
Singapore Airlines SilverKris Business Class Lounge, not to be confused with their SilverKris First Class Lounge, is located on Level 3 of Terminal 2 by the E-gates. This lounge is actually quite small, but it is well appointed. There's a self-service buffet station, so you can help yourself to some food if you're feeling hungry, and there's also some live stations where you can have noodles made to order and watch them put everything together. Shout out to these curry puffs, these were amazing. Definitely try them if you get the chance. I also had a chance to go check out the shower rooms while I was here, and they were modern with nice finishes. The shower rooms were stocked with amenities from French brand Perricone, and the shower stall was actually quite spacious with a rainfall shower head as well as a handheld shower. But that's it for the lounge today. Let's head on over to the gate so we can check out the brand new United Polaris 2.0 suites. Today, we're boarding out of gate E26. And in true Changi airport style, you do clear security at the gate before boarding. As a business class passenger, you do get premier access, which includes priority security, which basically just means we get to stand in a shorter security line. After clearing security, you do kind of just get put into this waiting area until everyone has finished clearing security. As a business class passenger, you normally would get to boarding group 1 after the pre-boarding group, which includes passengers that need special assistance, active military members, or United's top-level status holders, the Premier 1K and the United Global status holders. But if you are flying in one of the Polaris Studio Suites like we are today, one of the perks is that you do get to pre-board alongside United's top-level status holders ahead of the standard business class passengers in Group 1. And after having our boarding passes and passports verified, it's now time to board the flight. Our 787-9 today has 64 seats in business class, arranged in a 1-2-1 configuration. We'll be seated in seat 1L today, and here she is, the United Polaris Studio Suite. According to United, the Studio Suites are 25% larger than the standard Polaris seats. Just for reference though, here's what the standard Polaris seats look like. They're actually really nice, but definitely not as roomy as the Studio Suites are. But back to our seat. It has 42 inches or 107 centimeter pitch and a seat width of 21 inches or 53 centimeters. Up in front, we have our screen, which we will talk about a little bit later, a table, and the companion ottoman so you could have someone join you if you wanted to. Here's what the footwell space looks like while you're seated. It does narrow towards the back, which isn't an issue if you're seated, but we'll see how things feel later on when we get into lie flat mode. From the front table, there is a small velvet-lined storage tray that pops out. It is quite small, so not really sure what you would put in here, but as long as it's 3 pounds or less and flat, you are good to go. The front table also houses your tray table. It comes out as a half size and then it folds out into a full size. It also comes with a device ledge if you want to prop up your phone or a tablet. Up on top by the headrest, we have the locker with mirror and some storage. And just beneath the storage locker, you'll find the remote for the in-flight entertainment, as well as a wireless charge pad. You'll also have 2 USB-C ports, as well as an AC power port.
Okay, so one thing that I did want to mention with the suites, both the Studio Suites as well as the standard Polaris Suites, is that they do have privacy doors that can open and close, but unfortunately, United still hasn't received the regulation approval yet to use the doors during flight, so they will have to stay open for our flight today. Hopefully soon they will get that approval. One thing that I did appreciate about United though is that they do give you an indicator letting you know when you're booking that the suite doors are not operational yet, so I think it's good that they at least give people a heads up.
And for those of you wondering how you can tell if you'll be on a plane with the new cabins, United makes it very easy. When you go to make your booking, there'll be an indicator telling you that the Polaris Studio Suites are available like you see here. Before takeoff, we're given a welcome drink. It was 8:45 in the morning, so I just got some water, although you could also choose some sparkling wine. It was also nice to see that it was served in a glass and not in the plastic blue United cups. We also got a hot towel for our hands, and then it's off in the air we go. Shortly after takeoff, it's now time for welcome service. Our tray table gets dressed, and as the Polaris Studio Suite passenger, you do get a special welcome drink, a glass of the Laurent-Perrier Cuvée Rosé. I just got water though, because I wasn't in the mood to drink. You also get a small bowl of mixed nuts. Sorry about the turbulence, it was pretty rough at this point. And of course, the other Polaris Studio Suite exclusive, the Caviar Tart. And yes, there is caviar hidden under all those chives, along with a generous filling of creme fraiche. I did enjoy this tart, I thought it was very tasty, and in case anyone was wondering, it is limited to 1 caviar tart per person, so you can't exactly fill up on these. But let's check out the menu to see what we can fill up on. As a Polaris Studio Suite passenger, you do get an exclusive menu with options that are not available for standard Polaris passengers. First, here's the menu for the appetizers and the main meal, and then the options for entrees and desserts. In addition to the Caviar Tart and the Laurent-Perrier Cuvée Rosé, there are some online pre-order exclusives just for the Studio Suite passengers. The Laksa and the Braised Lamb are the Studio Suite pre-order exclusives. The rest are available for all business class passengers. There's also a tapas menu, which is basically a hot snack menu that you can order a la carte after the main meal is served, as well as the pre-arrival menu. Next, we have champagne and wine menu, as well as the beer, spirits, cocktails, and non-alcoholic beverages. The appetizer arrives first. I've gone with the spiced seared prawns with chorizo duca and cauliflower puree. This was quite good. The prawns had a good amount of spice to them, which I enjoyed, and the cauliflower puree was quite good too. The appetizer was served with a side salad with roasted cherry tomatoes, marinated artichoke hearts, and shaved parmesan. And there was a balsamic vinaigrette dressing to go with the salad. From the bread basket, I chose the olive bread, which I always enjoy. And this might seem a bit odd, but I also really liked the salt and pepper shaker. Not because of the salt and pepper, but because there was a third compartment which had red chili pepper in it. I would love to see this on more airlines. It's nice to have the option to add a little kick to your meal. It's now time for the main. I did go for one of the Studio Suite online pre-order exclusives, the Braised Lamb Rack. This was served with a smoked potato puree, braised endive, carrots, and zucchini. This was actually really good. The lamb was tender and cooked well. I was pleasantly surprised since United Catering can sometimes be very hit or miss, with more often than not heavier on the miss. But this was a home run. If United kept up this quality for all, or at least most of their meals, they would definitely be able to shake that dodgy catering reputation they've gotten over the years. And finally, it's now my favorite part of any Polaris flight, the dessert cart. I, of course, got the ice cream sundae. I've always loved how United makes these tableside by your seat. There's something about it that just brings out the kid in me. And I did get all the toppings because that is what the younger version of me would have wanted. As always, the sundae was a 10 out of 10, especially after I poured some Baileys on top to level it up just a little bit more. Alright, now that lunch is done, let's go through the amenities because there is quite a few of them here in the Studio Suite. The first is this amenity kit by Perricone MD. This is an elevated amenity kit exclusively for the United Polaris Studio Suite passengers. It's a leather case filled with Studio Suite exclusives like a Studio Suite branded eye mask, earplugs with Studio Suite branded packaging, tissues, a dental kit, as well as a pair of black socks. You also get this box of Perricone MD skincare items that includes hand cream, face mist, eye cream, a cleansing wipe, and lip balm. My favorite item in this amenity kit though was this Polaris Studio Suite branded pen. I am always a sucker for an airline branded pen. For reference, this is what the standard Polaris amenity kit looks like. It's a little more scaled back compared to the Studio Suite amenity kit. You also get a pair of black Studio Suite branded slippers and a set of black Studio Suite branded pajamas. These pajamas come with a hood, and I have to say they're quite nice. And again, just for comparison, this is what the standard Polaris pajamas and slippers look like. And we are still not done yet because Studio Suite passengers also get this box of deluxe snacks, which includes these cheese biscuits. As a side note, they actually serve these exact cheese biscuits as the welcome snack on Delta Premium Economy. You also get some champagne gummy bears, passion fruit chocolate covered licorice, some almonds, as well as a box of chocolate truffles. And while these weren't part of the snack box, we were also given a pack of Polaris Studio deck of playing cards as well. Okay, so one more Studio Suite exclusive that I did want to mention is the wine tasting. Some of you may remember that the original Polaris used to offer wine tasting before they axed it. Well, now it is back, but as a Studio Suite exclusive. You get this little card where you can write down what wines you would want to try, and then you can have a go at it. Personally, I'm actually not much of a wine drinker. I prefer champagne or cocktails, but it was nice knowing that I could do a wine tasting if I wanted to. Alright, it's now time to check out the lavatories. There are 4 dedicated lavatories shared among 64 business class passengers. In terms of amenities, there seems to be a mix of brands. United still has some Therabody mist in here. For those of you that don't know, Therabody was the previous maker of United's amenity kits, and I suspect that they're probably just trying to use up whatever leftover Therabody products they have as they transition over to Perricone MD. There is also some Perricone MD hand cream and some spot cleaner for your clothes in case you have some sort of an accident. Okay, it's now time for the touchless test. Test number 1, the toilet flush is touchless, so check. Touchless test number 2, the faucet, also touchless, so check again. And touchless test number 3, no automatic garbage bin opening, but there is a foot pedal, so I'm gonna give it another check. That gives us a perfect 3 check score for the touchless tests. There is also a full-length mirror, and here is what the Studio Suite pajamas look like when they're on. Alright, let's head back to our seats now. Just as a side note, wouldn't it be nice if airlines made opening and closing the lavatory doors touchless as well? Alright, now let's take a look at the bedding. In my opinion, bedding is one of the areas where United Polaris has definitely excelled in, and we can see here that they are continuing with the Saks Fifth Avenue bedding. First, you get a thinner day blanket, a smaller gel memory foam pillow. This is actually my favorite item from their bedding. I find it to be very comfortable. You also get a second, fluffier, standard size pillow, as well as a thicker duvet cover. And And this is what the mattress topper looks like. It's a pretty good thickness, and I find it does make a big difference in terms of comfort. Keep in mind too that United only provides these upon request, so don't forget to ask for one. I actually think this is an area where they can improve the Studio Suite experience. It would be nice to see them have an elevated mattress topper exclusively for Studio Suite passengers. Or at the very least, have the mattress topper already waiting for them at the seat so they don't have to request them. It would just be an easy way to add additional value for that extra $500 to $700 fee. And here's what the bed in full lie flat mode looks like. In lie flat mode, the bed is 80 inches or 203 centimeters. As someone who is not that tall, I'm 5'3" or 160 centimeters, I found it to be plenty spacious. But if you're really tall, you might find the foot area more cramped compared to the older Polaris bulkhead seats because the footwell here does narrow slightly towards the back. Whereas on the original Polaris bulkhead seats, there was no narrowing in the footwell at all. Alright, now let's talk snacks. You have two options when it comes to snacks. The first is that you can order off this a la carte snack menu under the tapas section. These are hot items that are available on demand. I did try out the curry puff, the pastry was soggy, and the filling was bland. It tasted like something that would be next to the week-old rotating hot dogs at a 24-hour convenience store. Seriously, United needs to have a chat with their Star Alliance Singapore airline partners about where to get curry puffs, because the ones in the Singapore Airlines lounge is what they should be serving, and not whatever this was. Your second option for snacks is to head on over to the galley area where you'll find this snack bar. Just make sure you get to it sooner rather than later because the people on my flight were savages. They had already cleaned out the cookies, chips, and candy, and the only thing left was fruit, instant noodles, and beverages. And this was only 30% into the flight. Okay, now let's talk about the headphones and the in-flight entertainment. This is what the headphones look like. These are by Meridian and they are noise cancelling. And while they are pretty good, they're not so good that you start contemplating how to smuggle them off the plane. If you're not a fan of the provided headphones though, you can use your own since the in-flight entertainment system does have Bluetooth capability. Now let's talk about the in-flight entertainment system. The screen on the Polaris Studio Suite is 27 inches or 68.58 centimeters. And at present time, it is the largest screen available amongst US-based carriers. It's also quite a bit larger compared to the standard Polaris Suite screens, which sit at 19 inches or 48.26 centimeters. As for the actual entertainment options themselves, this is another area where I feel like United has always excelled. They always have a great selection of movies, TV shows, and I love that they even have Spotify podcasts and audiobooks. It's just a very comprehensive selection of media for you to choose from. For those of you wondering about Wi-Fi, there is no Starlink at the moment, although you can watch this little teaser about how they're actively installing, so hopefully soon. They do offer complimentary messaging though, and you can get Wi-Fi for $10 or 1,000 United miles, and considering this is a 16 hour-ish long flight, $10 is quite the steal for an entire flight. Alright, now before we get to the pre-arrival meal and whether or not United's new studio suites are worth it or not, let's talk about how much all this costs, which also includes the interesting dynamic nature of the pricing of the studio suites.
Okay, so as always, let's talk about cost as well as what I paid. So first, what I paid. One way between Singapore and San Francisco, I did use United miles and I did manage to find it for 110,000 United miles. Something that I did want to mention about their award fare pricing though is that United does release more of the lower award fare pricing to people that either have status with them or to people that have a United credit card. And in addition to that, people who have United credit cards get 10% off the award fare price, and people with status, I believe it's 1K and above, get 15% off the award fare price, which honestly can be a bit of a bummer if you do not have status with them or you don't have a credit card with them. But I will say that it is kind of fair that they are releasing, better award fare pricing to people with status, because those are their most loyal customers. So those are the people that should get perks like that.
Okay, so before we talk about the cash cost, I do want to talk about the pricing of the Polaris Studio Suites. Even though I did use points for this flight, in order to upgrade to the Studio Suites, you do have to pay cash for that upgrade. For my specific flight, the cost to upgrade to the Studio Suites was $599 and there was also a $92.43 US in taxes and fees. So, in addition to the 110,000 United miles, I paid $691.43 US for the Studio Suite upgrade and the taxes and fees. What I also want to mention about the cost of the Studio Suite upgrades is that a lot of people are just stating the cost of them to be $499 and I just want to say that it doesn't give the full picture, because the prices are actually starting at $499, meaning the $499 is the minimum cost, but the cost could be higher because United has decided to make the cost to upgrade to the Studio Suites dynamic. So just as an example, this video is for my specific flight, and the pricing of the Studio Suites is $599 for all the Studio Suites except for the seats at 1D and 1F, which are $499 US. At first, I thought this was because 1D and 1F don't have companion ottoman, and that's why they were $100 cheaper. But upon further investigation, I learned it's because United dynamically prices the Studio Suites. So the price can either be $499 at the lowest, or it could be priced higher. In my case, it was $599 for my seat. But here's another example of a different flight on a different day, but the same Singapore-San Francisco route. And the Studio Suites on that day were $699 US. So just make sure you keep an eye out for that dynamic pricing. If you want to fly in the Studio Suites and have the flexibility for your flight date, try and fly on a day when the pricing is at its lowest at $499 for the Studio Suite upgrade. Okay, so that was a lot to go through. Now let's finally get to the cash cost.
And now let's talk about cash costs. So before I show you the cash costs, as always, I have to put up my little disclaimer that the prices you are about to see are just for this specific route on this specific day. If you are looking at cash costs, you might see higher or lower pricing just because that is the dynamic nature of flight prices. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into it. Round trip between Singapore and San Francisco in US dollars.
The cash cost round trip from Singapore to San Francisco in US dollars with the upgrades to the Studio Suites would have come to $7,400 US. Something to note as well is that the cost to upgrade to the Studio Suites is per segment. So if you want to upgrade on the way there and on the return flight, you'd have to pay $1,200 for both flights to upgrade. You also aren't required to upgrade both flights. If you wanted to only upgrade on one of the flights but fly in regular Polaris on the other, you can do that as well, and it would be $600 to upgrade for the one flight in that case.
Okay, and just the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to costs is that if you did want to upgrade to the Polaris Studio Suites, you do have to buy a standard business class fare or higher. And when I say upgrade, I mean have the privilege of paying full price to select one of these seats. If you purchase a business basic or, base business class fare, you do not get the option of paying full price to upgrade to the Polaris Studio Suites. So keep that in mind if you do want to check these suites out. And the other thing with the basic business class fares, there's a couple of other, things that they have taken away in the past few months or so. One is that in addition to not being able to pay for the Polaris Studio Suites, you also don't get free seat selection. So you do have to pay for seat selection with the basic business class, as well as you no longer get access to the Polaris lounges. So you would have to go to a regular United Club lounge. And on top of all that, you only get one piece of checked luggage as opposed to two. So keep that in mind if you are booking a basic business class fare.
It's now time for the pre-arrival meal. But first, we're given a hot towel for our hands. For the pre-arrival meal, I ordered the ricotta pancakes, which were served with caramelized banana, honeycomb butter, honey, and toasted walnuts. These sounded really good from the description, but in reality, they were just dreadful. They were really mushy and just overly sweet. There was also a side of fruit as well as a croissant. And before landing, we're presented with one more gift. As a Polaris Studio Suite passenger, you do get a leather Studio Suite branded AirTag holder. And as we start to land in San Francisco, let's talk about the new United Polaris, whether or not the Polaris Studio is worth the extra cost, and then we'll go check out the Polaris Lounge in San Francisco Airport. I felt about this flight as I do about most United Polaris flights I've taken. There's a lot of hits, but equally as many misses. The new cabin is really nice. There is no denying that, and the new studio suites are very spacious and very nice to travel in, especially on a 16-hour flight. And while I did enjoy the pre-boarding, elevated menu options, and elevated amenities, the food quality was still a bit of a roller coaster, with the main meal being a standout, but the snacks like the curry puff and the pre-arrival pancakes were really dreadful. I don't think it's any secret that you don't fly United for their food, and that still seems to be the case even if they did try to dress it up with a little bit of caviar. For me personally, I probably wouldn't rush to book the studio suites again, mainly because of their proximity to the galley and the lavatories. The light in the galley did stay on for the entire flight, and at times it could be noisy, so if sleep is your priority, which on a 16-hour flight at some point I imagine it would be, it isn't the most ideal location to get some rest. Maybe if you're exceptionally tall, it might be more worth it. Although, given that the footwell does narrow, that might cancel out the benefits. If you're a tall person that has tried the studio suites, let me know if you found the narrowing of the footwell to be an issue. But let me know what you guys think about United's new Polaris suites, and then we'll go check out the Polaris Lounge here in San Francisco. But before we head on over to the lounge, I did of course stop to ask the pilots if they had trading cards. This year is United's Centennial year, and they have special edition Centennial trading cards that feature a special 100-year livery on the Airbus A321neo and on the Boeing 787 like we're on today. Unfortunately, they only had the standard trading cards, which are still nice to have, but I guess I'll have to try again for the Centennial cards on another flight. Alright, now let's head on over to the Polaris Lounge in San Francisco.
Alright, so I'm here at the United Polaris Lounge here in San Francisco, and as promised, I will show you guys around. You can access this lounge on arrival, so that's why I'm here right now. So if you have a connecting flight like I do, you can access this lounge when you land, as well as obviously if you're flying in the opposite direction, so from San Francisco to Singapore, this is the lounge that you would be going to, as long as you didn't purchase a basic business class fare like we talked about earlier. The other one thing that I did want to mention is that United has made quite a number of changes to United Polaris lounges in terms of access. One of them, of course, being like we talked about earlier, how if you buy a basic business class fare, you no longer get access to United Polaris lounges. You would have to go to a regular United Club lounge. And the other thing that they made a change to was that previously, if you were flying in business class or first class on any of their Star Alliance partner airlines, you had access to United Polaris lounges, but that is no longer the case. Now it is only for a select number of their Star Alliance partner airlines. I will put those select airlines on the screen below. If you are not flying on one of those select partner airlines, then you would have to go to a regular United Club now. I'm sure that does a few things. One, it hopefully helps with overcrowding, and two, I'm sure it pads their bottom line a little bit as well. But in the meantime, let's go check out the United Polaris Lounge here in San Francisco.
The United Polaris Lounge in San Francisco is located in the International Terminal in the G Concourse by Gate G1. At present time, it is the largest Polaris Lounge in United's network at 28,120 square feet or 2,600 square meters. The lounge actually spans on 2 floors, although I feel like most people miss the first level seating because they immediately go up the escalators after checking in. So if you are having trouble finding seating on level 2, try level 1 as it tends to be a little quieter. There is a full-service bar, which is on level 2, along with a buffet and a full-service restaurant. I was hoping to get the Polaris burger while I was at the restaurant, but unfortunately, it was breakfast hours, so no burger for me. Here's what the breakfast menu looks like though. I ordered the smoked salmon eggs benny along with fresh pressed juice of the day, which had honeydew, green grapes, cucumber, and lime. Fresh juice was really refreshing, and the smoked salmon eggs benny was delicious. United should find a way to serve this on the plane instead of those soggy pancakes. If they did that, I think people would finally be impressed with United's in-flight catering. Here's a quick look at the buffet food. I definitely think the restaurant has much higher quality, so try to hit up the restaurant if you can. Alright, well that is it for the lounge for today. If you have enjoyed the video, I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing so that we can fly together again soon.